Hello? Oh, I see some people coming in. This is terrific. Hi there. Let's wait another minute or two and see if we get some more folks to come. Okay, wow, I'm seeing more and more here. This is great. Hi from Utah. All right, I see Leah McGrath is here. Terrific. Sherry, Neva, Maricruz. Excellent. So great to see you here today. I'm Ellen Shanley, and I'm the Dietetics Director at the University of Connecticut. I'd like to give a huge shout out to Build Up Dietitians for setting this up and hosting this event for me. And I'm also just excited that all of you are able to attend. So let me start by sharing with you my Facebook account is Ellen Shanley. My Twitter is at Ellen Shanley, and my Instagram is at Shanley Ellen. I also have a web page that I'd love for you to check out, and that is ellenshanleyrdn.com. So I wanted to start off a little bit by just telling you about my legacy. And I think it's really interesting. My mother was actually a dietitian, and she grew up in Iowa. She went to Clark College and she ended up doing her dietetic internship at Beth Israel Hospital in Boston. And that was right before World War II. And she was working in a hospital, but she felt that she wanted to do something. So my mom actually joined the Army Medical Corps and was a lieutenant during that time. I guess it was a pretty good event that she did, that she loved being in the service, and she actually met my father while she was there. And after that, she they moved back. My father was actually from the Boston area, which is sort of interesting. They moved back to Boston because my father needed to finish college, and my mother was working at the New England Baptist Hospital at the time. And I actually have a picture of my mom when she was in the service, as well as when she was in a kitchen at the New England Baptist Hospital in Boston, which I think is just a great blast from the past. One of the patients my mother had too when she was at the New England Baptist was John Kennedy, which is also sort of interesting. My mother really did love her career. But at that point, many times women stayed home, and I'm going to say she actually missed that she did not work. She was very involved in a lot of different leadership activities, but she didn't work as a dietitian, but she always really loved dietetics. I was also always the child. I have a sister and a brother that was involved in food preparation. So it was sort of interesting. When I was in high school, I was definitely career focused and I loved the sciences, and I knew I wanted to do something in medicine. I took some placement tests, and believe it or not, it came out with that I should be a dietitian as well as a home economics teacher. Well, the home economics teacher definitely wasn't for me, but who would have thought years later that I'd end up in education? So I guess those tests are may be pretty accurate at times. So I went to Syracuse University and I then did my internship at Mass General Hospital in Boston. I was born there, grew up in Connecticut though. Uh, and I loved Boston. And when I went for my internship, I was absolutely sure I was going to do something clinical. Absolutely positive. I loved that. And I still to this day really like clinical. But During the internship, I just felt like I needed something a little bit different. And I ended up deciding that management was really right for me. I thought it would be right for me. And it isn't so far-fetched when you realize that I grew up in a house where my father was a businessman. He had his own business. So when I looked for jobs when I finished, I ended up taking a position with a company now Sodexo and was an assistant food service director. I did realize after I was there about a year or so that I wanted to do graduate work. So I decided I'd go for my MBA. And at that time, there weren't all that many. I'm not sure if there were any dietitians that really had MBAs, but I loved dietetics. And when I was in business school, I had an accounting professor that tried to talk me into going into accounting. But I really felt strongly that I wanted to combine dietetics with business. And I considered doing something with a food company. I felt like I wanted to do something a little different. But I must say, I was outside of Boston at the time, and I really didn't want to move to the Midwest, and most of the food companies were in the Midwest. Well, all of a sudden, I saw an advertisement about a position at it's now Framingham State University, and it really ended up being a great fit for me. So I became an instructor at Framingham State University, and there I was doing the food service management, supervising more of the management experiences for students. So it was really a great combination of bringing my MBA and dietetics together. And I don't know, please feel free to ask any questions or anything as I'm talking on and on here, which I'm sort of enjoying doing. I did together some things about my life before I started so that I wouldn't miss anything, but I do feel like I'm blabbing on and on. So when I was at Framingham, my mother unfortunately died very suddenly, and it ended up changing a lot of things in my life, and I ended up moving back to Connecticut. Uh, and I ended up that I was then managing a college housing complex, which now I think about it and it really so much fits into dietetics and hospitality and all of that. So I did that, and I had my first child, and it's great. I'm seeing more and more people come. Great to see everybody here. So I had my first child, and I knew from my mother that I did not want to stay home. It was very important for me to have a career. So I ended up applying for a position at U Conn, and the rest is history. And it was a great opportunity for me. I was the didactic program director, and it was part-time. It was half-time at that point. And I was really the director, and I taught the food service systems management classes. But as I was there, I found that I really wanted to work more and more. And my son then, I guess he was maybe, I'm not sure if he was in kindergarten yet. But I did have a need to work full time. I wanted to. So I found more and more opportunities at U Conn. And I ended up funding myself for a full time position from when he was that young until I left that department. So I had some really unique experiences came my way. And I must say, I think that it's important for us to always take care to take advantage of experiences that we see. Why not take a chance, take a risk? So I had one experience that I developed a professional cooking training program for individuals who were receiving state aid. The whole idea behind it was we're trying to get people to work and to teach them some skills. So I developed the program myself, and then I worked with Aramark. I subsequently subsequently also worked with U Conn Dining Services to pull that all together. I was always looking for some different kinds of things to do, and another opportunity I took advantage of was with working with the Connecticut State Department of Education. And with that, we ended up receiving team nutrition funding for many years. And our work was primarily with school food services, and we did a lot of really interesting different kinds of programs. One of the things that we actually were able to do was we developed a cookbook. It was called Connecticut Cooks for Kids, and it was really it was a fun project. I got the students at U Conn involved in it. They made all of the recipe. We did a recipe contest. We gathered them from throughout the state. We then tasted the recipes. We did nutrient analysis on them. So it was great experiences for the students as well. And it was a great book. But I have to say, I was so disappointed because after we did that, it was self-published. And after we did that, nothing happened with it. And I thought, this is not good. So then we had another team nutrition grant, and the person with the State Department of Public Health talked about we were going to do some type of a resource book for teens, for middle school and teens. And so, she was just happy to do something internally. And I was like, ugh, there's too much work that's involved in this. I really want to make sure that we have that we get this out to more people. So it was at one fancy that I decided I was going to find a publisher for this book. And I went around to different people, and I did talk to different people, and I ended up finally working with Jim Bull of Bull Publishing, and we ended up publishing Fueling the Teen Machine. So it was great because then we actually got somebody that hired a publicist for us, and we really got the word out. And thank you for your comments. I definitely do think outside of the box. Maybe sometimes a little bit too much so, but I don't think so. So we did do Fueling the Teen Machine. The very fortunate, and I had a co-author, Colleen Thompson, who worked with me. She was a buddy of mine she still is a buddy of mine, but she's not at U Conn anymore, unfortunately. She's at Quinnipiac. And our publisher then, Jim Bull, actually asked us to write another book for him, Overcoming Childhood Obesity. And in addition to that, then, we did a second edition of Fueling the Teen Machine. But I'm definitely not retiring on any of that money. So I also then did different kinds of research grants. So I've secured over $1 million in USDA money with writing food safety grants. And the food safety grants were different. I did develop training programs for children as well as for food service workers. And we looked at doing everything in both English and Spanish. And we definitely had a technology bend to things. I worked with a game developer, and we had some internet games for the kids to become more and more interactive. And I must say, I always felt like I was stretching myself in terms of technology for these things. And I always liked doing that. It was then in 2008 that I was a little bit tired of always having to secure half of my salary. So there was a position open at U Conn in the Department of Allied Health Sciences, and I decided I would apply for it, and I got the position, and it is a great position. I'm the Dietetics Director there, and we have both a coordinated program as well as a dietetic internship. And I've been there since 2008. And I must say, I love that position because I'm actually seeing all sides of practice. I see management, I see clinical, community, and research. So it really has been the best of all worlds. And I've really had so many great opportunities to work with wonderful people and to see just so many wonderful students gain experiences and become registered dietitians. I'd also like to share with you and thank you for your nice comments that are coming in. I really appreciate that. So throughout my career, I really have been an advocate for cultural diversity and inclusion. I'm going to start by saying that both of my father's parents came to the United States from Italy. And so they definitely had a different perspective on things. Uh, and I was very, very close with them. They lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts, so I saw them frequently. And I was very fortunate that I was able to travel. And as a result of that, I have truly embraced all different cultures. I have also felt like I needed to give back in terms of some of that. So I had an opportunity to participate in a citizen ambassador program through the School of Food Service Association that went to South Africa. And that was just an absolutely fabulous opportunity. I also had another experience that I worked with BOSED, and it's the Bukaruka Orphans and Community Economic Development. And in case you're wondering, Bukaruka is in Tanzania. So I had an opportunity to go to Tanzania, and there aren't that many paved runways there. And I must say, I landed on some grass runways. So that was all very interesting. But I really felt that I wanted to make a difference and expose myself and hopefully be able to expose students to different cultures. Uh, I also have been fortunate in my role now as the Dietetics Director to have both of our coordinated program students as well as our dietetic interns work with SNAP Ed populations. And these students have so many outstanding opportunities with our SNAP Ed team. And on my website, I actually posted a link of two of our coordinated program undergrads who are giving out food at Rentschler Field. It's a big place where they're distributing food during the pandemic, which is great. When our dietetic internship, we had to develop concentrations for the dietetic internships. And I actually decided to develop a concentration in urban issues because I thought how appropriate that we're really in downtown Hartford, and which is a very urban setting. And let's have the students really think about what they can do in that type of a situation. I'd also like to share that I had an Asian American student who graduated from the program in June, and she actually reached out to me in June of 2020, and she indicated it was after the Black Lives Matter, and she indicated that she had felt some microaggression during the program. And also so I decided, well, we needed to do something about that. And so I ended up developing a diversity day for both our coordinated program students and our dietetic interns. And with this, it's a day that we focus on health equity, diversity and inclusion. We look at implicit bias, microaggression, and food insecurity. And Neva's making is saying that, yeah, I'd really love to talk to you for a minute about how we have done things differently. And Neva Cochran has absolutely been a champion um, for working with students. And Neva has had two different students of mine over the years, I think it's two, maybe it's three, who have worked with her in communications, doing a, a virtual rotation in communications. And Neva, I may have another student coming this year. And it was absolutely fabulous. Those students totally enjoyed that experience. And I think it shows that we can do so many different things if we just think a little bit outside of the box. And Nicole, thank you for saying that her rotation with Neva was the best part of her internship. Yeah, I think that we do have to look at these unique opportunities and really try to make things happen. And I think as dietitians, we have so many things that we can do. And we do just have to take advantage of those things and think about how can we really make a difference. And I know that there are one dietetics. I have found that through the different DPGs I work in last year when we went virtual all of a sudden, wow, that was so difficult trying to come up with 32 to 40 hours a week of virtual experiences, supervised practice for these students. And I can't say how great all of the different DPG were in terms of sharing ideas so that as educators we could put some of these together and make a difference. Yeah, I'd love to speak about science and focusing on science. We are really, nutrition is a science. We need to make sure that we practice and we promote evidence-based practice. We are the go-to people to get nutrition education information because we have evidence-based practice. So I think that's something that we always have to remember. We see encroachment in the field, and we are able to show others, prove our worth to people because of the fact that we believe in science. And we need to continue to always believe in science. And that is why we have certification and licensures in different states. And I think that it's really important that we continue to fight people that are encroaching on our field. I would really like us to expand licensure and certification to be more regional. In an ideal world, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have it just nationally? And that way that people, yeah, stand for science. Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions? Any comments? I think that we all really need to work to be advocates for our profession as well. I feel really strongly that we can increase our value by advocating for ourselves. Nutrition is a science. Yeah, it's definitely not an opinion. Uh, yeah, national licensure would be really, really helpful. And I think we're at a unique place right now. I think with the new administration coming in, I think when we look at some of all of the inequities that we've seen in health because of coronavirus, the fact that we can really focus on prevention I think this is really a time that I'm hoping we can expand MNT coverage. And I know for many people, salaries are an issue, and we need to promote our value. And to me, one of the ways we're really going to promote our value is by increasing coverage for medical nutrition therapy. So I'm hoping that I think we're going to see more legislation come about this. Uh, and I'm really hoping that all of us, as the dietetics professionals, the evidence-based dietetic professionals, that we are going to reach out to our congressmen and make sure that they vote and promote MNT, and the RDN is that go-to person for coverage. So I'm going to thank everybody for being with me today. How can we advocate for cultural diversity within our profession? And at the same time, set a boundary against cultural pseudoscience. Okay, well, I think we really can promote cultural diversity. I think that we all need to work at different ways we do things. Um, I, for instance, have developed a 4+1 program at U Conn, which is in the process of being approved by the university. And to me, I think that that really will advocate for cultural diversity, because we will be able to have students that come into our program that can get a master's degree and supervised practice experience in 5 years. That is absolutely cost savings for the student. And I am going to say that in our coordinated program, we have much more of a diverse group of people. Um, so health problem that limit my walking and hoping to find work from home. I think that there are definitely different kinds of positions that we can find work from home. And I think as dietitians, especially with seeing the growth in telehealth right now, uh, is a huge, and I think we can only do that more and more. And Neva's connecting somebody with a group with dietitians with disabilities. That is terrific. Wow, what a wonderful platform this has been. So, Lisa, I hope I answered your question. So, with that, let me thank Build Up Dietitians again. Let me share with you my social media. It's Facebook is Ellen Shanley, Twitter is at Ellen Shanley, and Instagram is Shanley Ellen. And again, my webpage is ellenshanleyrdn.com. Thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you for standing with science as well. This is great. I love all of these people that have joined us. Thank you again.